Here's a video with London Real and Andrew Bustamante. I really like Andrew. If you get an opportunity to listen to his interviews, he has some pretty good ideas on living a low profile life if you want to, and also to how things are really in the real world. Anyways, here we go.
Completely disappear. Could I do it?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely, you could. And it wouldn't be as hard as you think. It's just a matter of recognizing that when you're off the grid, it's not you that's off the grid, it's your devices that are off the grid. Right now, Brian Rose is defined in your mind as you, the man in the suit who has your beliefs, your ideas, and your intentions. But to the larger world, Brian Rose is defined as ones and zeros transmitted from your cell phone, or if you have two cell phones, from your two cell phones, plus your iPad, plus your laptop, plus all the Wi-Fi places where you log in, right? That's who defines you. So if you wanted to go off the grid, in many ways, it would be as simple as just taking all your devices and putting them on that desk right there, and then walking out the door. The whole world would think that you're right there. In fact, you would be somewhere else. Layer on top of that you take your money out in cash instead of having it in credit cards or bank accounts. You don't even take it all. Just take a chunk of it. And then pay for cash services with cabs, pay for cash services when you go to the grocery store, pay for train tickets, airplane tickets, boat tickets in cash.
Harder to do these days.
Only by a little
Impossible
bit.
to do sometimes. No?
Only if you're really trying to go and if you're trying to take the most convenient or luxurious route, it is very difficult to do. I promise you that
I totally agree with that statement with Andrew. These things are easier than I think. Anyways, let me just share the rest of this.
we could go to Gatwick Airport and there would be somebody there willing to fly us out of England for cash in their private plane. Not their private jet, but in their private Cessna.
Right.
Somebody would say yes.
Okay. But they'd still stamp me at the border, and that might be an electronic footprint.
If so, we would find a way to pick an airport that didn't do, like an uncontrolled airport.
Okay.
That doesn't have passport control.
Gotcha.
That's totally true. You can go to a U.S. airport, do everything Andrew says. You can do that same thing in Mexico City, all over Latin America, and as he said, no passport control. Anyways, usually that's about $500 to $1,000 in Latin America. I'm just going to play the rest of this just to give you an idea of what's possible these days.
Would be good to know. All right. And so then, like you said, stay off the digital grid, use cash, and then
Once you get to the other side,
Yeah.
you can get right back on the digital grid. Because who's Brian Rose? These devices. If you and I were to step outside right now and pick a lady's pocket, where she put her cell phone away but maybe didn't lock it right away, it would take us 3 seconds to pick her pocket, and now we would have her cell phone. To the grid, who are we? We are that lady. They're looking for you. You're sitting in here, but now you have a fully working cell phone. You can still use GPS. You can order an Uber. You can do whatever you want to from that other person's cell phone. You can go right into settings and make sure that it doesn't lock on you again.
Okay.
Right?
So I set up a new digital identity, but the money thing is harder because then to set up a bank account, you need identification.
The way that you would handle that is if you wanted to retain your money, if you had a large amount of money.
But
right?
if you didn't, you'd have to find a way of making money.
Correct. Which, if you can start a business here, you can start a business anywhere. But my point is, if you wanted to protect a large amount of money, you'd have to send it to an offshore bank account. You would incur fees to send it to the Bahamas or to St. Kitts or who knows wherever. Like you could send it.
Okay, that's another interesting point. He's pointing out the Caribbean, which is true. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate mail, or at least some, saying that's not true, but you totally don't need credentials. Anyways, let's just watch the rest of this.
It's somewhere where it's now protected. You're not the owner by name. You're the owner by a code, and then all of your access credentials are verified by numerical codes. So it doesn't matter who you claim to be. The person who owns that money is the person who knows those codes. So now,
That's a good point. Everything like that can be set up in places like the Bahamas and et cetera, et cetera. When I was in an old group, Gary North, he's since passed away, but he pointed that out, and a lot of the people in the group said, no, you can't do that, but actually you can. I'm just making an observation. Anyways, I want to suggest, if you really want to understand how to travel without a passport, set up bank accounts not in your name, this is a good guide list to Andrew Bustamante. Anyways, let's continue with this interview. Like, this is just for informational purposes. If you ever want to do this, this is a good outline that it's actually possible and not as hard as people think.
Now, you put it all offshore, it's all coded and put away, you cleanse yourself digitally, you jump a border, you reestablish yourself somewhere else, and now you go right back and you put in your actual code, and then you bring your money back to yourself again. Right? That's why offshore bank accounts are so valuable, because they are a barrier of privacy that keeps the owner away from trackable data. That's important if you're like, imagine, it's not built for criminals. It's used by criminals. It's built for the billionaires out there who, if somebody knew that you were a billionaire, you'd be a target for 1,001 reasons. So now the billionaires have a way to basically put their money someplace where nobody knows that person is a billionaire.
And then I'd create a new identity at that point.
If you wanted to, yeah. Essentially, you would create an alias, which wouldn't be like a passport and a driver.
This is really good information. He said create an alias without using a passport or any kind of government ID. Some people don't understand that, but that's actually more valuable than getting fake ID for reasons he's going to mention right now. I'll just click it back on.
License. It wouldn't be bureaucratically covered. It would just be a name that you choose.
And then I just stay away from the bureaucratic stuff. Try to live a life without a driver's license, or get some fake one to pass through the blah blah blahs. And
correct.
Stay off the grid. But
Which
it's doable.
It's doable, and it's not that difficult.
Even in the U.S. In the U.S.,
so perfect example, right? If you wanted to live off the grid in the U.S., you wouldn't live on the East Coast or the West Coast. You'd go into the Midwest. When you want to live off the grid, when you want to disappear.
That's a good point. Just for the viewers who are interested in this is a really good point.
From site, you have to go to more rural places where people are more trusting in general of other people and less dependent on technology. So the same thing is true if you're going into Europe or Asia or whatever else. You're going to go deeper into the heart of whatever country you're in, which again is counterintuitive. Most people think if you want to hide close to a border. If you want to hide, you hide right in the heartland. Nobody's looking for you there.
Okay, so it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You and I...
Until facial recognition software comes in.
You know what I bet you and I could do? If you ever want to do an experiment, I'll bet we could get ourselves across the city of London with no identity and no money. And I'll bet we could find a way to do it.
I'm probably going to end this video here, but that's really actually true. You can get from point A to point B without a lot of money and without any legal government documents. I'm just going to play the video a little bit longer, but I just putting this out there for informational purpose to show you really can do these things. Anyhow, let me go.
And nobody would know that we're us in the process.
No identity. Well, why would I need normal identification?
Well, if you wanted to live off the grid, you would essentially be traveling with no identity.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, no one would recognize me, or I wouldn't have to use my identity?
We wouldn't use our identities because we would try to... What I'm proposing in this experiment is that we either don basic disguises and cover identities, like you're Bob and I'm Willie, who knows what. We start here, we pick some other location 25 miles away, we leave all of our money and our digital identities here, and we just go. And you would be shocked at how easy it is to actually get other people, like businesses, you name it, to just help you without any questions at all. And boom, you're gone. You're gone, and it's cost you nothing. Imagine it'd be that much easier if you had your own cash. It would be that much easier if you put the plan in place to put your money in an offshore account. But I've got the confidence that you and I could do it on a weekend.
All right, it's a date next time I'm running. No, I really want to do this. Next time.
All right, that's it for this video. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment.